by telling Congress the truth that they would be lied to. So in '69, I thought, well, the time has come now to put out what I have. To do that, however, would clearly end your career, and I thought probably would put me in prison for the rest of my life. I thought if I did that. About truth-telling, the power of truth, and the power of nonviolent action, militant actions, committed militant action. Remember that Gandhi didn't like the term passive resistance. It sounded passive, weak, not doing it. He wanted something for militant, strong, committed action that was not violent. And he came up with satyagraha, holding to the truth, or translated sometimes as truth force. For a kind of committed, strong, dramatic action at risk to oneself, which is not violent, and which can exert power. But I read all this, and it was theoretical in my mind, and then I met, again through Janaki's influence, at a conference, I met young Americans, more or less your age, a little bit older, going to prison for draft resistance. Not because they thought their going to prison would end the war, but because it would convey to others that this war was wrong, that they were acting out of conscience, and that it deserved conscientious action to oppose it at risk to oneself, even if going to prison. So that example got through to me. I heard it. And I heard this one guy at a same talk, Janaki was giving a talk one afternoon, and this other guy, Randy Keeler. Have you ever heard of him?
He lives right down in Massachusetts here.
Gee, yeah, maybe you could get him to come talk to you. Anyway, Randy Keeler is later the national coordinator of the freeze campaign, the nuclear freeze campaign. He did go to prison for about 2 years for draft resistance. I heard him speak. I cried for a long time after hearing him. I sat down in a men's room in the auditorium and went and just cried at the thought that this was what my country had come to. The best thing that a guy like Randy could do is go to prison. It's a sad thought. And my son was probably born for prison, I thought, because there was going to be a lot to resist. And he has spent a lot of time in jail. And for civil disobedience. So then I thought, well, what can I do now that I know I can go to prison? Because it seemed obvious to me, you heard me describe the combat I was in, if I'm willing to risk my life in Vietnam when I believe in the effort, it's obvious to me I'm ready to go to prison, if I think about it, which I hadn't occurred to me before. So these people put into my mind the question, what can I do to help end this war now that I'm ready to go to prison? And I thought of putting out the Pentagon Papers. Actually, they ended in '68, so they ended under Johnson. They didn't go to Nixon. They didn't prove what I was saying about Nixon. But they did show that what I was saying about Nixon was that he was about to do what 4 presidents before him had done. The same thing. He was lying about it in the same way, he was threatening in the same way, he was escalating in the same way, and to the same hopeless prospects. So it would give some support to what I was saying about Nixon, although it wouldn't prove it. And it seemed to me worth going to prison to do that. Now the way that came out, actually the Senate did not put out the Pentagon Papers right away. They were afraid of the political retaliation that would come. Fulbright didn't jeopardize his career, the Senator, Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, by putting them out. Although at first he said he would, but then he decided it was too politically risky for him, so he didn't. 2 more invasions take place. The Senate wasn't putting the papers out. So finally I gave them to the newspapers, and I was put on trial. The Supreme Court finally said that the injunctions were unconstitutional. The papers could print these documents, but I was put on trial. However, that was the start of things as far as Nixon was concerned. He wasn't concerned about the Pentagon Papers. Those just revealed the Democrats' lies and crimes. I was talking about his coming lies and crimes, and above all, his escalations. I was not trying to indict people for what they've done in the past. I was trying to stop Nixon from what he was about to do in the future. I wasn't trying to indict Johnson or whoever. I was trying to end the war. Nixon knew that. Nixon feared that I had documents to prove what I was saying about his policy. I could have had if people who I was talking to in his administration had given me documents. But they didn't. They should have, but they didn't. They didn't have the precedent of the Pentagon Papers. It was Agan, and they hadn't met Randy Keeler and the others, and they didn't take that chance. They didn't give me the documents, or I would have put them out. But he feared that I would. So he had a very practical problem, how to stop me. He couldn't just threaten me with indictment, or put you in court if you put out these documents. I was already in court. Apparently threatening me with life in prison had not deterred me. So he had to find some other way. All he could do was blackmail me or kill me. So he tried both of those. He sent people into my former psychoanalyst office to get information on my sex life or whatever with which he could blackmail me into silence. And as Pat Buchanan puts it, all they found about my sex life was stuff that they felt might improve me in polls. I was a bachelor at the time, and in fact Hunt and Liddy got so excited by what they found of my sex life that they began to imitate it. But they were very turned on by it.